Monday afternoon. We are here once again to take a look at issues that affect you and I on this great continent, Africa, in the program Africa Discourse. I am Wilson Marshall. Well, today is all about what is happening in Ghana. Presidential election, parliamentary election is taking place right now. But the exciting thing about this election is that we have 12 candidates. Yes, over 70 million voters. But out of these 12 presidential candidates, we have 3 females. They're beginning to come up gradually. Now, out of the whole bunch, 2 contenders, 2 major contenders are the focus of this election. Yes, Akufo-Addo talking about the sitting president, and of course, the one that want to come grab it, one-time head of state, Dramani, saying he is the right man for the job. Before we talk about that, I'd like to pass this information to you about what is happening right now in our neighboring country, Cameroon. For the very first time in a long time, they're beginning to have the regional election. Yes, this is what decentralization of power is all about. But guess what? The Anglophone aspect or part of Cameroon, they choose to boycott the election. And this would have been an avenue for them to really exercise, so to speak, their freedom, even if they are in the Confederation of Cameroon. Yeah, due to the incessant fighting, the president of Cameroon deemed it fit to strengthen each region, knowing fully well that disparity, so that they can easily work together as a country. But the so-called freedom fighters, in quote, they are saying that if anyone should come out from the Anglophone region to go vote in this election, that person will be arrested. The big question now is, are they the law? Anyway, we'll talk about this subsequently in another edition of Africa Discourse. Today is all about what is going on in Ghana. With me here in the studio is a political analyst, a clergyman, both local and international politics is well grounded. Join me to welcome Reverend Humphrey Arega. Well, Reverend, welcome to Africa Discourse.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here again. Thank you, viewers, and I hope we have a nice time today.
All right, here we are. 12 contestants, 3 females, 9 males. The whole bunch, Ghanaians are looking up to 2 of these contestants to really come out tops. I don't want to go to the aspect of prophecies right now because prophecies have been ongoing about who will come out top, who will not come out top. But this is the 3rd time these 2 titans are meeting at the polls. And people are like saying that what may or may not happen is that they will just get the expected or unexpected result, because right now, so we're talking Ghanaian citizens, they are out there exercising their franchise, wanting to see if the ruling party or the opposition will be the one to come out tops as the day goes by. I mean, what do you have to say about this?
It's an amusing thing for me, looking and reading through the election process. Yes, it is good that you have 12 contestants. That means the field is wide. But the irony is that there are only 2. And I am a little bit unsettled in this matter, not just for Ghanaians, but for Africans. That is also not just peculiar to Africans. I think even America now, that we begin to highlight only 2 dominant parties to the detriment of the little ones who would have had much, much better programs and ability to govern in a manner that will be beneficial to all. I'm saying that because these 2 gentlemen have had their chance twice, one after the other, and this is the 12th time. But what has been the major issue? When they were, the last time they contested an election and Addo won, the issue was corruption. They said the man at the helm of affairs is corrupt, and so the government is affected. But right now, the story is that what they have now is more corrupt than the one they asked to go. So, which means the central point of focus at the last election is still the central focus of this election. And people are not asking, why must these two be the only ones? Why can't we get somebody else neutral who has not been there, but who has some measure of integrity and charisma to do the job? But unfortunately, our politics is money. And he who is able to use his resources to get the voices or get the attention of others seems to outdo others. You know, people may have good ideas, but they don't have the resources to push it through. But I've also said that the sad story about politics, especially in this part of the world, is that we wait for election period for people to begin to talk. You don't need to mount rostrums and say you are campaigning before you begin to get your ideas across. You have environments to discuss. You have groups. You have town halls. Nobody says you cannot discuss with anybody. You know, these are issues that, because people may not vote for who they don't know. You know, because you are a professor doesn't mean that they know you. Your students may know you are in class, and there are very few. So I believe that the situation will continue the way it's going to be, and that's why the African development is very poor, because he's not coming with fresh ideas. He doesn't have. He's still coming with his old ideas and with his own people. And Akufo is also going to be there with his own. Two things I also take a lot of persons that also call it the world. The youth, the population of voters in Africa is basically the youth. And we're talking about Ghanaians who have very high youth unemployment, which means the youth has the power to determine who helps to shape their future. But unfortunately, human beings are concerned with the now. Who gives you money now? Who gives you food now? We are not talking of who makes my journey for tomorrow a better one. Who gives me a lot of space to do what I can do to get to where I'm going to. And that's where I'm a little bit worried about African politics. We don't seem to look at ideas and ask people questions. If you say you're going to abolish, like Akufo said, you're going to abolish corruption, how were you going to do it? And we have seen, like they have said, that the corruption has grown more than what it used to be. And like other African countries, that's what we see. When they come, they recycle themselves. And it's because in governance, African politicians are always thinking about how to survive, how to maintain their own status quo. And so they use proxies to make sure that they are who they want to be. Two, we're also talking about parliamentary election. And it's not as, the parliamentary election is not as highlighted as the presidential election. But in the democracy, by all its standards, the parliament is supposed to be the power base. Because they represent the voice of the people. They aggregate the thoughts. They hold the government accountable on behalf of the people. Unfortunately, in Africa, we don't have parliaments who can hold government accountable. They are all part of the same package. You know, most of them are contractors, most of them are businessmen, and they need patronage from government. And that becomes a problem. And so you cannot divorce them from the executive who is in charge of doling out the resources. But we should be asking ourselves the basic question: is it not possible for us to change the mindset of our people, to begin to look at those who can readily articulate thoughts that will give them? Ghana is rich in, just like Nigeria. In fact, it's richer in gold, it's richer in cocoa, it's also having oil. So there's no reason why unemployment should be high in Ghana. These are the issues. So why can't somebody else articulate thoughts that will bring down the cost of governance and embrace entrepreneurial development that will create jobs? Government don't create jobs. Government creates environments for jobs to prosper. We're also told that the press system, or the liberal press system that used to happen in Ghana, is becoming shortened. The current governance is not allowing a free flow of information. And what I've read, every journalist that tried to probe into the corrupt nature has either been assassinated or imprisoned, incarcerated. And so, if that is the case, can't the people begin to say, no, look, we have to be able to express ourselves. So let's get someone who can make that happen, instead of maintaining the status quo that is not beneficial to the younger generation, who are the leaders, who are the people for tomorrow. I don't use the word lead. They are the owners of tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
And if you don't have, you see, you lay in your bed the way you lay it.
Yeah.
If you don't lay the bed well, you crash.
All right.
You know, and that's exactly what is happening.
All right. Now, before we go into the antecedents of these two gentlemen, though they are 12 in number, 3 females, will get to that later on. How come Ghanaians are zooming into just these two personalities out of the whole bunch?
Yes,
they're the best,
like I said,
of the rest.
Yes, it's not because it's the best of the rest. It's just because they are the ones who have the resources to get to the people. Africans especially are not looking for intellectuals. They're not looking for those who can articulate thoughts and pray. They are looking for those who has money to dole out. So, and any man who gives you money is not giving you free. There's no free lunch in Freetown. If he gives you money, he's going to recover it back 10 times. And that's why corruption persists in the African context. Because the moment he gets to government, all the expenses he made during the election, he's going to get it back. Not just getting it back plus. And that's the problem. So we need to begin to ask this basic question. What is wrong with African thinking and mentality? The way you think is the way you are, you know. And African youths are too much in a hurry to get wealth. Wealth is a process. Any wealth that will be sustained takes a long time to be established. And if you are going to make tomorrow better than today, you have to be ready to pay some sacrifices today to get that tomorrow you are looking for. So I believe that these things have not happened in the way it should happen. We do not have, of course, the electoral umpires also create problems for the other party members who could, because they are given short time, they are told you cannot campaign before so period. You know, and like I said, we don't need to mount a rostrum. Fortunately for us in this world we are, there's a whole lot of electronic means to get your message across. And young people are in internet and all of them. Yeah. So you speak to them directly. You should be able to talk to them directly and give them understanding why things should be what they are. But again, they are also very quiet. Those who want to become politicians are also very quiet until some few weeks to the elections. And that also has not helped issues. Those established parties, you see, I also say that in the African context too, party activities ends when the election ends. That is a very sad commentary. Because after election, there should be post-mortem.
Post-mortem?
Yes, of the activities of electoral that period. Then you begin to have research and documentation. You research into the issues. What were the issues that attracted the demographics? You know, all of us don't have the same needs, okay? Constituencies have different needs. If you're able to articulate them, what are those needs that these constituencies need? How do we package them together, okay? And then you begin to have seminars on discussing those issues. Because elections is just one after the other. 4 years is a short period. People need to begin to understand why, and then you begin to marry the parameters. Why, what has happened in this period? Has this person succeeded in doing these things? If not, why? You know, you're able to articulate answers to say, look, if you're talking about corruption, for instance, what are the templates for you to solve that problem? If it's the same method the other man has used, like what we have seen in the 2 terms, the other people have used, you're going to get the same result, and that's what we're getting. You know, most of them use other set of panels. You're not looking for men and women of integrity who are not politically biased. Most of the time, we bring in men from our own party to begin to try to solve a problem that is endemic in you. It doesn't work, okay? You should look at, because I also keep saying to people that electors are not politicians. Majority of the electorates are not involved in any political party, okay? So you should begin to reach those parties, leave those who are party biased. Aim at those citizens who are not basically party biased, but they are looking for how they can get somebody to entrust the leadership of the country to their hands and engage them. That's some of the things.
All right.
So if you don't do that, then the status quo continues.
Now let's take a look at the age disparity. One is in the 60s, the other is turning towards 80, 76, talking about the sitting president. I mean, do you think that it's going to have any impact in the way they govern, or is it going to be the same old story?
Well, it's not going to have any different. That's what I keep saying. It's going to be the same old story. But I'm not very particular about age, because there are those. Mandela was a little bit old when he became president, and he did incredibly well. So it depends on the philosophy and the characteristics of the individual. What are you looking at? What do you have? What are you thinking about? But sometimes age can also be a factor, because the age of the president and the electorate, for instance, have a big gap. While the younger ones are talking of digitalization, global world, the other man is thinking of analog. How do you, whether you go to the village? That's some of the things. So even if you say, oh, as a president, 80 years, I will bring a young man of 35 years to become Minister of Information, for instance. It is what you give, what you sanction, that the minister will talk about. Okay? It's not what the minister thinks. Because most of the time, what the minister thinks goes at variance with what the president is thinking, and is dead on arrival. Okay? But if you have young people, like you have in Australia, or you have in Ireland, or you have young people of 30-something, 40-something, they are thinking alike. You know, that becomes a reason why there should be some dynamism in it. You know, and these are some of the things. So I'm not going to see it different. Like I said, you are bringing the same old person who the other person defeated in the same categories, and you are still going to bring the old friends. If the other one wins, he brings his old friend to government. It becomes, it's a circle. You see, until we begin to break the genes and begin to look at how we can use, looking at the situation in the world, who and who can reach out. Again, being a president is not just being the president of Ghana. He's not going to relate, he's going to relate with other countries.
Other countries, yes.
Who and who has that diplomatic finesse to relate with other head of states and governance and economics to be able to do what they need to do. These are important. Among the other 10, I've not been able to see what and how they are coming up with. And that's, unfortunately, the press is not, well, the press needs money to survive. You know, but if you are talking of the survival of a nation, we also have to go of sacrifice. Yeah. There must be one or two of them who have some very good background that could be highlighted for others to see and know, and then begin to make a choice of what needs to be. If one was a professor in the university, for instance, he had been an academic journal, what are the antecedents? Okay, or if you were a businessman, how successful was the business? Because if you can't run your business, you can't run a nation. Okay, you cannot run and establish. So these are some of the issues. Yeah. If these things are there, was there corruption aids in all these places? How were they able to tackle it? Because you're not able to do the small ones, you can't do the big ones, it will overwhelm you. Okay? All right. How you're able to relate with local government. If you're in the university, for instance, a council as a head of department, how were you able to relate with other heads of departments within the faculty? You're able to do something. That's the way you are going to be able to relate as a president to the parliament, to enable you make the parliaments understand what need to be and how you need to engage them. All right. If you just joined us, this is Africa Discourse. We'll also be going on a break. But this time around, we'll return after this break. We'll be taking a look at the antecedents. Some are saying what Akufo-Addo promised is not what they are seeing in Ghana. He talked about the fight against corruption. He talked about robust economy. He talked about employment. And now Brima's like saying, all those things you said you were going to fix, you've not fixed it, but vote for me. You have more employment, and it's going to be a check when you talk about the spread of corruption. Will all these promises stand for against them today? Because I'm speaking right now, they are busy voting. At the end of today, probably we'll get to know the winner. Do stay tuned. We will be right back. Thank you so much for staying tuned. If you just joined us, this is Africa Discourse. It's all about what is going on right now in Ghana
presidential election and, of course, parliamentary election simultaneously taking place today. But two major contenders out of the 12 want to talk about presidential election in Ghana. That is what the citizens of Ghana are looking forward to. Those two contenders are the what are like talking about. So I'm saying 4 plus 4 deserve another 4. You know what I mean? 4 plus 4 and the rest of them anyway. Well, let's go back straight to Ghana, and I still have Reverend Humphrey Arega here with me in the studio. There were allegations and counter-allegations leveled against the sitting president, and of course, the one that is contending right now against the sitting president, still based on corruption and the high rate of unemployment. Do you think this will speak volume for or against these candidates?
Well, it should have, but unfortunately it doesn't in the African context. Because people don't vote because of reasons. They vote in allegiance and loyalty to either some people they call leaders. You know, in every of the African climes, you have leaders in various environments who people are loyal to. And wherever they go, the people follow them. It doesn't really matter whether it is favorable or not. Unfortunately, again, people don't look at issues. I didn't follow the debate. I don't know whether there were debates, you know, but again, the debate has to look at what are the questions that they were asking. And I'm also not too comfortable with the kind of electionary process that goes on in Africa. When you're talking to a crowd in a stadium, or talking to a crowd, you're not talking to anybody. Because within that crowd, you hear people drumming, you hear people selling. They're not listening. They are just there. Some of them are hired. Most of them are hired.
Yeah.
You hire them, you give them clothes, you give them transport money. That's just all. Real campaign should go to what I call town hall meetings in the various environments. You engage people. They have time to ask you questions and you answer the questions. They are able to understand your temperaments, you know, how you react to things. What are the kind of questions you react to and how do you answer them? These are the things that should make people convince themselves of what they should do for you. But you look at it's a popularity context. It's not ideological to me. And that's why I'm not very much interested in the campaign issues with Africa. Okay, let me elaborate a little bit. You look at the American election, for instance.
Yeah.
They had things, each of the demographics have what is contained to them. For some who are either African origin or Asian origin, they were concerned about immigration, they were concerned about employment, and they felt that the current president didn't do anything for that. They were concerned that, look, the only opportunity they have to come to America for them to have their lives better off, they have been stolen and they have been returned back. So people had those thoughts, and that gave them opportunity to say, look, I'm going to make sure that this man doesn't come. That's their own thoughts. There are the other women who talks about stability in the economy and all of them. They had that. You know, that's what Africans should begin to look at. What are the concerns? There are regions I'm told they don't have light. They're like, that it should be a concern to you. Why is it difficult? You promised us you were going to do that, and you have not done it. The other man came before, he was there. It's not because he wasn't there before. He didn't do it. Why do we believe that you can do it now when there's nothing different? Let somebody else come with a different thought and ideas. Like I also said, it's able to convince us. It's not just a matter of change, but it should be the fact that the change is something convincing. Again, we talk about, nobody tells you, oh, if I'm going to give you employment, for instance, oh, I'm going to give 2 million employments. You're not asking the person, where are you going to win the employments from? How are the employments going to be? We don't ask questions. We just hear 2 million, oh, everybody just jump. Oh, okay, it's 2 million employment is coming. The person didn't even sit down. The person just thought, let me use that to excite them. We are going to ask yourself, which of the areas are you going to have the employment coming from? Give us the demographic thoughts. Give us the statistics. Give us how you are going to finance them, and let's see how we are going. You know, and at the end of the day, they can't do it because they do not have the roadmap. They didn't have it thought out. They just said it because it is what will excite the people. What will excite you is not really what is real. And these are some of the things. So I'm not seeing I'm going to see any change because the people are still the same.
So now what do you think is driving them? You've seen the retinue of crowd, talking about the multitude there, cheering, hailing, you know, chanting praises of these men. What do you think is propelling them to do what they are doing?
No, I've just told you, most of those, you ask them question now, they can't answer you one question as to why they are there, you know. But when you're talking of crowd, how many is that? You know, the television can be the camera can be very funny. They may not have up to 2,000 people there. We are talking of a people of 70 million. So this is not a crowd, what you'll be talking about. And this shouldn't be what should make it happen. So that's what I'm saying, because we do not have a template as to how we should choose our leaders. We just go by excitement. Each of these persons, there are persons who are financing the issue. And this is the problem we have in Africa. It's not just now, it's everywhere. People have interest that they want to guide against. And they ask themselves, which of the presidents will give me comfort? And they put their resources to it, you know, and they make sure that the noise is loud, okay? And at the end of the day, they're not going to answer questions. So when the president wins, whoever wins, he's going to satisfy those who made it happen. It's not about those who are shouting now. You find out that those who are shouting, they were shouting 4 years ago. Till today, they don't have a job. So you have to ask yourself, why should that be? But there are also people who are diehard party members. Whatever happens, they are there. The party is there for them. They can import them from different regions to a particular center, and you think that there's population there. It's not. It's just that's how it is. So that's why I said, majority of those who are going to vote are not in that place where you are talking about. They are in their houses for now. And today, everybody's going to vote. But what prepares you to go and vote? People just vote because it's another time to vote. You ask them, I say, well, I was listening to some of them. Someone said, I do not even have passion for any one of them because they are the same. Someone said, oh, I feel very disappointed. I don't even know why I voted for this current one. I'm going back to vote for the other one. People have, just because one of the things they're talking about is corruption. The second is unemployment. But they have not also found out, how has this person who is coming back, did you ask him what templates they are put on ground to give us employment? Did you ask him, okay, when you were here there was corruption, what now have you put to thought that will make sure there's no corruption? Corruption may not be wiped out completely, but how are you going to reduce it? But it's not just the president alone. Corruption cannot thrive if the National Assembly are not part of it. They cannot thrive if the party chieftains and the local traditional environments are not part of it. So it's a collection of persons. So you have to ask, that's why I said, there are people within the community who will tell the presidential candidate, I will give you this candidate, give me this money. People use it to collect money. And they just call their people together, oh, so you see, we are together, we have to be together, we cannot. And some of them, oh, I cannot afford to be against the authority. We can't have anything, so let us just follow. And these are some of the things. Of course, we also have some intimidations. There are some intimidations on the ground that may not be seen or heard by those in power. They say, look, if you don't, and we are confident of winning, you know, everybody goes to a contest with the conviction of winning. These two believe they will win, but only one person will win at the end of the day.
Just one will come out top at the end of the day.
Come out top. The other 10 are, some of them, you will have been very shocked that they must have aligned and said one of these two. Because they will say, well, I'm not sure I'm going to win, but at least I can get something out from the expenses I've made.
They're by collapsing their structure.
Yes, they collapse their structure with one or two of these persons. And at the end of the day, you ask your question, what was your response? What were you responding to that made you come out? Your voice could be heard, yes. You could be given a ministerial appointment, yes. Just like the chairman of the electoral of the Anti-Corruption Commission resigned because he felt that the president was not in favor of what he was doing. He wanted the corruption to remain because he was part of his government persons and others. And he resigned. There are some of the things. You can be patronized by appointments, but it doesn't mean you're able to do what you want to do because the atmosphere will not be there for you to do it.
All right. Now, I want to go into religion right now. You had professors, even in other African climes, because you see religious leaders saying, I saw it, it was revealed to me by the Most High and all that this person will win, that will win. And Ghana's case also is not different. I read a couple of prophecies concerning this particular election that is taking place today, prophesying about the victory of a political party, prophesying the victory of a particular candidate and all of that. What do you feel about this?
Well, I'm a little bit disturbed because most of them, out of their own personal excitement, can say anything, you know. God is not an author of confusion. And I'm very skeptical about prophecies in this environment. I'm a Christian. I believe in God. And that's where convictions come. God convinces you what to do. When you begin to prophesy, because it's not the beginning, it's not the first time. We've seen it in Bible times when you gather prophets together to you to prophesy, and God didn't say anything. But thank God that God is not man who will strike anybody down for saying what he didn't say. So if people are going to be relying on prophecies and they are not doing what is right, it's to their own detriment as far as I'm concerned. Some people have, if you prophesy this one will win and this other one will win, are you saying that the God who said he will win is no longer, which God now? Which God? But again, the Archbishop, my former Archbishop, will say, when somebody says God said, you have to ask him for yourself which God said. I don't want to debate on which God said. There are many gods. So it depends on behalf of which God they are prophesying. You know, so I leave them to whatever they are saying.
Yeah.
But I'll tell politicians, if you want to win an election, go to the field and explain to the people. Ask God to give you wisdom to deliver your promises and convince them about what you are going to do. And you have to be talking of, how do I reflect that with God? Okay? When you see people win an election and you are hearing of fraud, election fraud and all that, does God give into fraud? Does God permit fraud? No. So I don't want people to be carried away by so-called prophets. Okay? I'm not saying God may not say anything. But looking at elections over the years, it was only when God was appointing kings that he made pronouncement to prophets. Since democracy is not what God brought to man. It's man that formed democracy. So it's man that also walked his way through it. So don't sit down and say God said when you have not heard even God talking to you. Somebody's collecting your money. Some of the prophets that prophesy, they prophesy and collect money from the back. That's not prophecy. You are selling emotions, you know. And I pray that some of them will begin to leave that kind of trade and let people, because sometimes because of our religious nature, when you just say somebody prophesy, people just go through it and say, oh, that man of God said. It's you that call him man of God. He may never even have been close to God at all in the first place. But because human beings are religiously inclined and we tend to believe those who are leading us, most of the time, even though they lead us wrongly, we just follow. You know, and so I keep telling people, if you say God said, you have to ask yourself, why would God also not speak to me? If I'm the one contesting and I'm talking to God, please help me, why will God not talk to me? If you use somebody else to talk, the Bible said they went to check whether those prophecies they heard were true. You go back and find out from God. Did God really say I will win this election? What have I done to merit it? You see, every king in the scriptures was not just chosen out of ignorance. They went through a lot of training. They went through things. So when God made the choice, he didn't just make choice. He said you should not give rulership to ignorant people.
So you're saying that they're speaking out of emotions right now?
Some of them are just speaking out of emotions, and they are doing that. Some of them are business people in robes of church who might talk about it. They don't even have understanding of who God is. All
right. Now, we just can't talk about the presidential election without taking a look at the parliament, because it's going simultaneously. Some are like saying that parliament ought to be checked, so to speak, for the executive, but many are saying it's not happening. Let's take a look at what is happening right now in Ghana. will the outcome of the parliament also have so much impact in whoever wins the presidential race?
Yes, it's going to have a lot of impact because you are doing it simultaneously.
Yes.
So people are voting for the same people. And that's also another problem with the African context. We're talking about bandwagon. So you don't want the
bandwagon effect.
Yeah, Africans don't want parliament to be against the president. They want the parliament to be the same party with the president. And that's why there's a lot of problem. You can't talk because it's your party man. You know, we should be looking at how does it affect me? Is it constituencies, like I said, differs. And constituencies will be able to make choices based on their needs. They now congregate together in the parliament to discuss those issues and passionately make sure that the nation is represented. Today, people from the parliamentarians are not also selling their thoughts. They are selling their party. Oh, I'm the president party. You vote for me. The president will bring something for us. That's not the thing. And that's why the parliaments in Africa is weak. You know, democracy, when those who reason the thought of democracy, or that power corrupts, absolute power corrupts, absolutely. And so you must not allow one man to determine the fate of everybody. Because during the traditional leadership of our African context, life depended upon one man. The king determines whether you live or die. Is the judiciary, is the executive, is the legislature. And that was not good enough, because if you offend him, you are gone. You can wipe out the whole community. But when I say democracy is that people should have a plenty of reason to discuss. Yeah. And then, so let that be one arm that checks the other arm. If they don't approve money, the executive can't spend money. Even after they have approved it, they should be able to look at the processes of utilizing it, so that the people shouldn't be changed. But unfortunately, we don't have it, because the parliament have sold themselves to the executive, because the executive have been made so powerful that the legislature has become just an addendum to the presidency, which is wrong. Because the presidency does not have time to process thoughts like the assembly should have done. The assembly debates issues, come up with reasonable thoughts, and then process how to do it. Okay, you can say, oh, the civil servants are there. Fine. A civil servant saying that we're talking, it doesn't have two good heads are better than one. So those who ask us to separate the issues, and then the executive, the judiciary, also on one side. Unfortunately, in Africa, all of them are subsumed to the executive. So you are trying to have favor with the executive so that you can survive. Because we have seen presidents closing parliaments because it's not favorable to him. The president should be at the mercy of the parliament.
The parliament.
The president, because they are the people. They represent us. We should be able to say to you, you are doing well, or you are not doing well, we remove you. But today it doesn't happen because people are not doing what they should do. So they are tying the elections. That's why I also like American elections. They are not done at the same time. So you have opportunity to zero in on one, and then opportunity to do on others. And at what time you should be.
So what about the cost implication of it? So they should do it separately.
No.
It costs money.
Yes, it costs money.
Yeah.
But if the cost implication makes the situation right, rather than say, okay, you want to cut costs and you end up being in trouble. Because the cutting costs have not saved the country. The corruption has increased, unemployment has increased. So what costs are we cutting? Nothing. Nothing has happened. So we need to begin to look at things. You can say you cannot do the same thing the same time, all the time, and expect a different result. And that's where we are. So until there's a reasoning of some thought, let's look at these things. You see in Nigeria, for instance, let me also delve that. Because all the governorship elections are not held at the same time, there's some semblance of democracy. You have seen some governors or some parties lost midway. That's what election. You see, you judge people by reason of what should be happening within the locality. Because I say every election is local. Yeah. Okay? So it should be that. But when you don't give opportunity for that, you say because of cost. it makes nonsense out of the matter. Because you have not told me what cost you have saved. Okay? Even in holding the election in one day. Okay? You have not. Because if you hold presidential election, you are not going to use as much material as you use to hold both. So it's just a question of dividing it. You know, looking at the things. We also say, because the president and the parliament are going at the same time, they also have that understanding. Like, if I don't do this one well, and all of us go, I may lose out. So, but if you say, okay, the president is here 2 years after you lose an election, those parliamentarians who are going to stay have a better stake on what they are saying without fear of losing the election. Okay? And to do what is right.
All right. Now, we're about commencing our dissent on this discussion. If you're asked to predict the winner of a Ghana election, who will you give it to, going by antecedent?
Well, I will not. I don't have all the knowledge of everybody, but there's no difference between the two parties. That's basic, and Ghanaians have also said that. So if I had the opportunity to have reasoned from the other 10, I would have been looking at the four of us. Whether you give it to Mahama or you give it to Akufo-Addo, they are the same people. You know, like I used to say in Nigeria, PDP, APC, they're the same people. They're just different side of the coin. And that's why we are where we are. So there's not going to be anything different. If they were different persons, not even the party now, if they were different personalities coming out to run for the election, I would have been talking of something different. But since they are the same persons that have been there, this is the third time they are going to come together. No manifesto have changed. So I'm not going to, they have not done anything. The corruption continues.
Mahama versus Akufo-Addo, one 76, the other 61 or 62 or thereabout. They are competing for the third time, flexing muscle, flexing popularity to see who is going to come out top. Reverend, briefly, Brazilian women, 3 of them, they are there in the race. I don't think it's like a plus to the female folk in Ghana to at least aspire for a higher position.
Yes, it's something good. You see, I believe that everybody should have opportunity, especially the women. But I would have thought that as a precursor to this, the 2 candidates should have had women as their vice president. That makes a bigger journey for them. Because after this election, you don't hear of those women again. That's the end of the story. Because they don't have the resources. But these 2 dominant parties should be able to say, okay, let's include women into this process. The man is the president, let us take women as the vice president. That would have had a better chance of having a greater thought. Because people would have been saying, okay, this woman will bring something else to the table. And
all right, our time is up for this segment. The signals are also strong for us to call it a wrap on the show. Reverend, I really appreciate your wonderful analysis.
Thank you.
Let's hope that before today runs out or before today goes by towards evening, late night or early hours of the morning, we'll be announcing the name of the new president of Ghana. Is it going to be Mama?
Oh, 24 hours.
Okay. Is it going to be Mama or Akufo-Addo? The contest is keen and it is on. Let's just see who will come out top. See you tomorrow on International Forum. Bye for now.